Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Syed Warhan bin Muhammad Nakri. ID number is PDA1905162. I am the representative for Group 2 from the IA6B, and today, me and my group are going to present our financial ratio analysis for both of our company, which is Lei Hong Berhad and Teo Sang Capital Berhad. So without further ado, let's go through the first one, which is the introduction. So this is the introduction. First one, we have financial statement analysis. It is used to provide important facts about a company's financial status, income statement, operational, investing, and also financing operations. Shareholders, directors, managers, customers, prospective lenders such as banks or vendors, and any other entity or organization who wants to evaluate the company utilize financial statements. The next one is the purpose of the analysis tool. It is one of the most effective methods for ensuring a decent return on your savings. These financial analysis tools are very useful in analyzing the economy and planning in such manner that the profits from the investments are maximized. These financial analysis tools can be used to decode both internal and external facts about a particular segment. Each part of the assessment process includes detailed data that can be used to assess a company's overall results. Furthermore, financial analysis tools are critical for any investors because a company's success has a significant effect on the stock price. Next one, we will go to the analysis tools. First, we have trend analysis. Under this analysis, the averages of various products for various periods are determined and compared. The analysis of the ratios over time provides insight into whether the market is trending upward or downward. This analysis is also called as the pyramid method. The second one is average analysis. As pattern ratios for a market interest are determined, they are compared to the sector average. Both of these patterns can be represented on graph paper in the form of curves. The research and contrast become more detailed and spectacular with this introduction of data in the form of images. The third one is fund flow analysis. It examines the origins and uses of funding over a particular span of time for a market issue. It shows where funds come from and how they are used during the time frame under consideration. It emphasizes the improvements in the company's financial framework. The lastly is cash flow analysis. It is based on the circulation of currency and bank accounts. In other words, the cash flow analysis will assume the transfer of cash rather than the movement of working capital. Cash flows can be divided into two types, which is actual and notional. So that is the introduction for task 3. Next we will go to liquidity ratio. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I want to present about assignment ACC 2642, which is FSA for task 3. And before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Fakhruddin bin Muhammad Fauzi, and my my ID number is PDA 1905022. Alright, today I want to explain and I want to compare about liquidity ratio and assets management ratio. I want to compare between both company, which is Lehong and Teo Sang Berhad. Alright, let we go to liquidity ratio first. Okay, inside liquidity ratio, we have three items, which is net working capital, current ratio, and quick ratio. So for the formula is for net working capital, current assets minus current liabilities, and for current ratio, current assets divide by current liabilities, and for quick ratio, current assets minus inventory divide by current liabilities. Alright, let we see first for net working capital. Okay, we can see the value for Lehong Berhad is 23,228,000 and 358. Alright, the value for Teo Sang Berhad is 47,488,000 and 110. Alright, we can see that both company have positive net working capital since current assets exceeds the value of current liabilities. Alright, next we see current ratio. Alright, for Lehong Berhad, we can see the value is 1.1142 times, and for Teoseng Berhad, we have 1.229 times. Alright, here Teoseng Berhad is more liquidity rather than Lehong Berhad. Next, for quick ratio, the value for Lehong Berhad is 1.0451 times, and Teoseng Berhad, the value still the same, which is 1.29 times. It stayed the same. The value for quick ratio Teoseng Berhad stay the same with current ratio. It is because the Teoseng Berhad have no value of current have no value of inventories. So here again, Teoseng Berhad is greater than Lehong Berhad. Right, that's all for liquidity ratio. Let we go next to assets management ratio. Alright, inside assets management ratio, we have four items, which is inventory turnover, days sales outstanding, net non-current assets ratio, and total assets turnover. Okay, for the formula is for inventory turnover, we have a sales divide inventory. For days sales outstanding, account receivable divide by sales times 365 days, which is 1 year. Non-current asset ratio, sales divided by net non-current assets. And for total assets turnover, sales divided by total assets. Alright. For inventory turnover, the value for Lehong Berhad is 27.4586 times, and for Teoseng Berhad is 0. Lehong Berhad has more turnover inventories in the company as roughly 27 times per year if we round out that value. And Teoseng doesn't have inventory in the company, so there was no inventory turnover value. Alright, next, for days sales outstanding, we can see value for Lehong Berhad is 33.6467 days, and for Teoseng Berhad is 40.4639 days. Alright, Lehong Berhad is better than Teoseng Berhad since the days sales outstanding value is shorter than Teoseng Berhad, which is 34 days roughly per year. Alright, next non-current assets turnover. The value for Lehong Berhad is 1.2563 times, and Teoseng Berhad is 0.4776 times. Okay, Lehong Berhad has more non-current assets turnover in the company, which is 1.2563 times better than Teoseng Berhad, which is which is the non-current assets turnover, which is only 0.4776 times per year. Alright, next we see total assets turnover. We can see the value for Lehong Berhad is 0.7227 times, and for Teoseng Berhad is 0.4468 times. So Lehong Berhad has more total assets turnover in the company, which is 0.227 times, better than Teoseng Berhad, which is only 0.4468 times per year. So I think we have seen all the ratio, which is liquidity ratio and assets management ratio for both company, which is Lehong and Teoseng Berhad. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for watching.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Ahmad Hussein bin Suhaimi. My ID number is PDA1905013. So today I will explain about debt management ratio, profitability ratio, and market value ratio for company Lehong Berhad and Teoseng Capital Berhad. Firstly, we will go to the debt management ratio. In debt management ratio, they have four calculations, which is equity ratio, debt ratio, debt to equity ratio, and time interest earning. Firstly, I will explain about equity ratio first. Formula for equity ratio is shareholder equities divided by total asset. Lehong Berhad equity ratio is 48 while Teoseng Berhad is 97.23%. This means Teoseng Capital Berhad is greater than Lai Hong Berhad because Teoseng Capital Berhad have provided enough to the company to purchase the asset. Secondly, debt ratio. The formula for this ratio is total liabilities divided by total asset. Lai Hong Berhad debt ratio is 51.5% while Teoseng Berhad is 2.77%, which means Lai Hong Berhad is riskier than Teoseng Capital Berhad because depth of ratio of Lai Hong Berhad is higher than Teoseng Capital Berhad. Next, debt to equity ratio. Long-term debt divided by total equity is the formula for debt to equity ratio. Lai Hong Berhad have 0.1988 times, but Teoseng Berhad does not have any of debt to equity ratio because they does not have long-term debt with other third party. Lai Hong Berhad has 0.1988 times in financing its operation through debt. Lastly, for debt management ratio is time interest earned. The formula for this calculation is earning before interest and tax divided by interest expenses. Lai Hong Berhad have 1.3785 times interest earned, while Teoseng Berhad is 4.4499 times. This means Lai Hong Berhad is more burdened by debt expenses rather than Teoseng Capital Berhad. So, for the second ratio is profitability ratio. Profitability ratio also have for calculation, which is net profit margin, gross profit margin, return on asset, and return on equity. So I will explain about net profit margin first. The formula for net profit margin is net profit divided by sales. Teoseng Capital Berhad has greater net profit margin, which is 93.05% better than Lai Hong Berhad with only 0.75%. Secondly, gross profit margin. The formula for this calculation is gross profit divided by sales. Same with the net profit margin above. Teoseng Capital Berhad has greater gross profit margin, which is 93.42% better than Lai Hong Berhad with 15.13%. Next, return on asset. Net profit divided by total asset is the formula for this calculation. Lai Hong Berhad have 0.54% for return on asset for the company, while Teoseng Berhad have 41.57%. This means Teoseng Capital Berhad has greater in return on asset rather than Lai Hong Berhad. Lastly, for profitability ratio is return on equity. Net profit divided by total equity is the formula for return on equity. Teoseng Berhad have 42.76% for return on equity for the company, while Lai Hong Berhad have 1.11%, which means Teoseng Capital Berhad has more return investment into profit rather than Lai Hong Berhad. The last ratio that I want to explain is market value ratio. In market value ratio, they have only one calculation, which is earning per share. The formula for earning per share is profit after tax divided by number of shares. Teoseng Capital Berhad has more received money per share with 0.1158 ringgit per share rather than Lai Hong Berhad with 0.0044 ringgit per share. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So now I'm going to present about which company has the best performance between Lai Hong Berhad and Teoseng Capital Berhad, and also I will present also about the comparison between our both company ratio analysis and industry average analysis. But before that, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Aiman bin Muhammad Azizwan, and my ID number is PDA 1905024. First, we go through to the comparison between company analysis. As Fakhruddin and Hussein have mentioned before, the calculation of ratio analysis from each company I will make a summary on which company has the best performance between Le Hong Berhad and Teo Seng Capital Berhad. Based on the table, I have made a final decision from each ratio group which company has the best performance. We go through one by one. From the liquidity ratio, I discovered that Teo Seng Capital Berhad has adequate cash flow and asset that near to cash that will be sufficient to meet short-term liabilities of the firm. Next, from asset management ratio, we can see that the management of Le Hong Berhad has been efficient in ensuring that the business earns sufficient returns to the finance, debt, and equity. After that, from debt management ratio, we can see how Teo Seng Capital Berhad is being financed and provide indicator as to the extent a firm can meet the interest payment. Other than that, from profitability ratio, we discovered that the management of Teo Seng Capital Berhad is generating adequate profits from the use of the firm's capital and asset, and this company managed to make a large net profit rather than Le Hong Berhad. Finally, from the market value ratio, we can say that Teo Seng Capital Berhad has give more benefits and return to the shareholder of the company in terms of earning per share. From this five ratio section, we can conclude that even though Le Hong Berhad has been more efficient in the performance of the company, but it does not give a big impact in return on profit to the company. Therefore, I will give the best performance from the overall ratio analysis to the Teo Seng Capital Berhad, which ratio of 4:1 than Le Hong Berhad. Now, let's move on to the ratio analysis and industry average analysis. As for your knowledge, industry average is being used by the investor to evaluate whether the organization or company have potential power to grow in the future and level of risk for the investment. All those factors contribute to decision making and deeper analysis. Based on the table, I have found 4 ratios from both companies that we can make a comparison with the industry average analysis. Since our both chosen company have different accounting period, we need to make a comparison with the average industry analysis based on year ended. Like Le Hong Berhad as the accounting period 31st March 2020 year ended, so we use first quarter of 2020 average industry, while Teo Seng Capital Berhad have accounting period 31st December 2019 year ended, so we use 4 quarter of 2019. So we go through one by one from the ratio. The first is return on asset. We can see that Le Hong Berhad has a poor performance greater than average industry, while Teo Seng Capital Berhad have good performance rather than average industry. Next, the quick ratio. We can see that from the value, both company have the good performance rather than average industry. Next, total asset turnover. We also can see that both company also have a good performance rather than average analysis from the value. And finally, from receivable turnover ratio that we can find from the formula of average receivable divided by net sale, we can say that both company also have a good performance rather than industry average. So for the conclusion, we can say that both company have a higher overall ratio analysis value rather than industry average, and is a better performance, is a good performance actually. So I think that's all for me for today. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
So next, we will go through for our company's cash flow analysis. First, we have Le Hong Berhad. For operating activities, Le Hong Berhad has 21976,277 ringgit, and for Teo Seng Berhad, it has negative 3293,525 ringgit. Le Hong Berhad has stronger operations than Teo Seng Capital Berhad, which can clearly be seen because Teo Seng Capital Berhad has negative number of operating activities. Leh Berhad has better performance, showing that the company has more control in their commercial activities than Teo Seng Capital Berhad. Operating cash flow is very crucial when it comes to inform the analysts regarding the company's major business and operations. It will tell that whether the operation of those companies is in good shape or not. Next one is investing activities. For Leh Berhad, it has a negative 17254,135 ringgit, and for Teo Seng it has 36040,521 ringgit. Teo Seng Capital Berhad has a higher cash balance from investment activities than Leh Berhad. This shows that Leh Berhad is allocating cash for long-term investment and is generating more cash flow than Teo Seng Capital Berhad. Next one is financing activities. For Leh Berhad, it has negative 4034,681 ringgit, and for Teo Seng Berhad, it has negative 31,593,418 ringgit. Leh Berhad has a better financial standing than Teo Seng Capital Berhad. Customers will learn about a company's financial strength and how well its capital structure is managed when doing so. We can see that Leh Berhad has a higher volume than Teo Seng Capital Berhad, despite the fact that both companies have negative net cash flow from financing activities. So this is the company cash flow. Now I will make a conclusion for the company cash flow. To sum things up, we can finally conclude that Leh Berhad performs better than Teo Seng Capital Berhad. When it comes to differentiate their cash flow control, this can be seen when Leh Berhad has improved from the last year cash flow statement in all of the activities, which is operating, financing, and also investing. Maybe they're a bit far left if we compare their investing activities with Teo Seng Capital Berhad, but it doesn't matter since they are improving their overall performance. So this is the conclusion, and last but not least, we will go through the limitation of analytical and interpretative techniques. First one will be interpretation, which can be difficult to use if ratios outcomes are what they are. For instance, we can use a current ratio of 2:1. It may seem outstanding before you even know that the company just sold some amount of stock to increase their cash position. A more in-depth test will tell you that the ratios mentioned is not permanent and most likely downgraded in the future. Secondly will be historical. As we all know, all of the information used to analyze a financial statement, for example ratio analysis, is taken from historical data. This is not to say that the same results will occur again in the future. However, by applying pro forma data to historical outcomes, you can use ratio regression to ensure precision. So that is all from me, from us, our group, which is group 2 from the A6B. I hope you guys enjoy our video. Thank you for watching.